Okay. Hello again, and welcome everyone to Gaming with MSKain. I am here today, bringing you the part 1 of my mega project, Final Fantasy III, known as Final Fantasy VI in the original in Japan. And this is a speedrun of the game. Technically, it's 100% glitchless, but I call this one Kappa percent. Because even though it is glitchless, I have done things to this game that alter it in various ways and make it work a little bit differently. So, really, the actual game difficulty is trivial. My chances of dying are very, very low, provided I, just act normally. But still, this is something I'm doing for various reasons. Number one, just to kind of do a bit of training as a speedrun, and also for my own personal enjoyment, as well as I hope for entertainment and education purposes. There's going to be a lot of things that you're going to see in this speedrun that you won't see in a normal speedrun or even in casual play, as I'm going to get in depth in some of the more interesting rare items in the game, and even more than that, into some of the values the game has that you'll kind of hear about from speedrunners and what they work, but I'll be pointing out some of the differences they have between them and normal other Final Fantasies. The stats in this game work a little differently, and the things I've got are doing that. So this game is running on, I'm playing this on my SNES 9X emulator. Largely so I can run this Kappa percent because of the various things I'm doing, and I'll explain more about that in time. I'm not actually going to explain how it's Kappa percent at first. I'm going to let kind of some of the stuff that's happening speak for itself, and then eventually I'll explain what's actually going on. If you're familiar with Final Fantasy III, and speedruns in particular, you'll notice that there are quite a few subtle differences going on, and then I'll start explaining what those differences are. If you're not familiar with Final Fantasy III, don't assume that this is in any way the way it's supposed to be going. And if you enjoy this kind of thing and these kind of speedruns and you haven't already done so, you should check out some legitimate speedruns out there that done by speedrunners such as Puwexil and Essentia, as well as others. Last year's RPG Limit Break was a sketch percent of this game done by Bic Fungballs, and that's a very fun one to check out as well. Check out all these videos, they're awesome. Shoutouts to them for getting me started on this whole idea and everything anyway. But what I'm doing right now is letting the game play out. This is a standard thing you'll see speedrunners do in America, because the game, they track the time of running, because on a legitimate speedrun you'd really be tracking your time to see try and get a world record or a personal best kind of thing. I'm not really doing that since this isn't legitimate in any way, but I'm still doing some of the same sorts of things so that I can explain them. And in a legitimate speedrun, the clock starts when you hit game start, and it stops when you deal damage to the final boss. In Japan, it's from when you start the game, rather, so... But because of that, you can use a little trick in this game to skip the intro when you actually start the game by letting it play to this point. And now, when I start a new game, it'll actually skip that, and voila, we're right into the game right here. So, first thing I'm going to do is edit some of my config. Turning battle speed to slowest is a standard thing you'll see in these speedruns, because that actually only affects the enemies. It doesn't affect players at all. The players' characters move at the same speed regardless. So now we're going to get into battles, and in a normal speedrun, you try and manipulate killing the enemies and then having the rest of the party run away except for Terra, whose name is just a row of question marks at the moment. But I'm doing things a little bit differently. Terra is a fire elemental who uses fire magic, so of course she absorbs fire. But normally you can have only certain characters run away by manipulating it, and then those characters being out of combat do not receive experience. And since these are temporary characters you don't care about, you don't want them to get XP. But I don't really need them at all, so I'm just going to get rid of them, and then I don't have to worry about running away anymore. This will also allow me to get a bit of bonus experience. Now, you want to glitch the game as soon as possible, but a little bit of grinding is necessary because you have to be of certain levels and have certain stats to be able to defeat the enemies. And early on in these games, you can get a lot more accomplished by leveling up early, because the levels of the characters that join you are determined by the characters you have. It's usually their average level, maybe a couple levels higher than that. So the more you do early on, the more it actually affects you down the road. It's a domino effect, so fighting all these battles is useful. Now normally you could skip these 2 battles by walking around the trigger point, stepping slightly to the right. That's what you'll see in a normal speedrun, but I'm getting so much experience with Terra alone, and since I don't have to worry about the fact that I can't run away from that first battle, that I'll just get it. Because you see, these Lobos, and even though there are 4 here, 2 dogs and 2 guards, you only see 1 dog for some reason. But because those Lobos count as bosses, so you can't run away while they're on the battlefield. So normally you could... that's one of the reasons why you want to skip that one fight, because it's 2 fights, takes a little bit of time, and you can't run from the first fight, and so that minor amount of experience is divided between the entire party. But again, it's beneficial to me. Normally you'd want to get Terra up to about level 6 at this point, but I'm going to go a bit further and go to level 8, because I think that'll help out a little bit more, and it's not going to be any trouble for me whatsoever with this setup I've got, since 2 of my companions are dead. Here's a fight that would normally take a very long time, because you have to kill the Vo Mammoths individually, and then use Bioblast after they're already dead. But since I don't have to worry about my characters running away, see, the Vo Mammoths also have that boss flag, I'll just blast them all and move on. Gaining levels quickly here, which is good. And now we move into the Marsh Caves. Wait, aren't they dead? Why are they talking and recording? Obviously, the status of your character sometimes isn't affected by mini cutscenes and stuff. We're going to make our way through the mine now and immediately get a battle. Really preemptive. I can't use Bioblast on these rats because they're immune to it. I could run away really easily, especially since it's a preemptive attack, but I do want to get 1 more level. So, in the story, the Empire is trying to conquer the world, and they've unveiled magic, which was lost 1,000 years ago. But now it's starting to recover, and the Empire is seizing it wherever they can. And magical creatures called espers bring magic, and there was one that was supposedly found frozen in ice in these mines in the northern city of Marsh. So the Empire sent their Magitech armor that they developed, along with this mysterious woman who can use magic, who's being controlled by a slave crown, to investigate and find the esper. Amazing that she can operate without orders, since I've killed both of the soldiers. They go alive just to talk and then die. Maybe they're still good enough just to give commands, but that's it. Now, this is the first boss battle, and it's just like the ones in 4, 5, and 7. He has 2 phases. His first phase is normal, and then his second phase, if you attack him, he does a nasty counterattack. So the ideal is to kill him before he reaches that second stage, which is normally really difficult and depends on luck, but, oh, that wasn't hard at all, was it? Okay, so now that I've absolutely blown the game open with that little trick, I'm going to explain a little bit what's going on. Kappa % means that I've hacked the game, even though I'm not using any in-game glitches, or at least the major ones of Joker Doom, Sketch Glitch, and skipping South Figaro with Lock, which are what normally constitute the glitches in this game, and not using those as glitchless. But see, the reason I need this on an emulator is that anyone who has played a lot of Nintendo, Super Nintendo games, PlayStation era, are probably all very familiar with the Game Genie and Game Shark mechanisms that were developed to allow you to temporarily hack the game and reprogram it so that you could do various things. And some of the most interesting uses of that I found is affecting the actual character values here in games like Final Fantasy VI. I can change their starting stats and their starting equipment, which is what I've done here to all the characters that were involved. Normally you can only change 4 different statuses, but since I'm affecting all 14 characters in this game, I need 140 of these commands, which you can't do normally. So that's why I'm running it on emulator. And the reason I'm doing this is to really, it's why it's not legitimate. I mean, makes the thing so ridiculously easy that it can't qualify as legitimate speedrun at all, and I wouldn't want to try and compare really that much. But it does make it go faster because I have this, and it allows me to show off a few things. Now, first of all, we see that Terra has lost her Magitech, but it gives her sprint shoes for some reason. This is one of the interesting things that hacking the game in this way finds out. For some reason, there are a couple instances in the game where sprint shoes that make you walk twice as fast are disabled. And for some reason, the initial entering of Narshe with the Magitech armor is one of those. She's had sprint shoes this entire time, actually. But they didn't, they were deactivated before, but now they'll work. I'm renaming her Tina because that's what her name was in the original Japanese. I'm going to rename all the characters in ways that I just find interesting. Normally in a normal speedrun, you'd minimize their name to one character to save frames in order to get the most time, but since I'm not really that worried about, saving every second and trying to do that, I'm doing this for entertainment purposes. I think it's entertaining to have these names rather than letters. So, as I say, I've hacked the game to raise her stats and also to give her equipment, including sprint shoes, which make her run really fast. And you may notice I'm just standing there. It's one of the instances where you can't actually operate anything until Arvis finishes walking around. And normally that doesn't affect you if you go to get that elixir because you aren't fast enough to reach it before he stops moving, but since I have sprint shoes, I have to wait. So, let's see, I believe I'm level 7, so I need to fight one more battle. Maybe 2. I've given her some really awesome equipment that, besides that, I also gave her an experience egg, which is the reason why I can shoot for level 8, which I am now. Because I get twice as much experience from battles. One of the major things I've done with this hacked speedrun version is that I'm trying to optimize the use of relics in a lot of ways. I'm giving out relics that'll be of the biggest benefit to the party throughout the entire run. So, this save a lot of time by having Terra move very quickly here, and not so much here as in Figaro Castle when we'll reach there, because that's right before you can normally pick up sprint shoes. I can just run. What am I doing? And also the experience egg, because, as I say, the earlier you get a lot of experience, the more it affects your party later on. So now I've reached a point where she falls through. She has amnesia now that the slave crown's been removed. The Narshe guards are still after her because she was working for the Empire, and the returners are interested in saving her because that's the kind of thing they do, and also because they hope that she can help them to defeat the evil Empire. So now she's starting to have flashbacks, including of the evil dude Kefka, the main villain in the game, and from the very moment here you can see just what a crazy person he is. Other things I've done with Terra is, you haven't seen it so much, you'll see it more on Loco as the same thing, but who's coming up. They have the ultimate weapon, which is the Illumina. It's an absolutely unbelievable sword, and it's normally really difficult to get. I'll go more into that when I reach the point far, far later in the game where it's important. But the Illumina, the ultimate sword, not only has the best stats, it also the best attack power of any weapon. It increases all of your stats by 7. It gives a huge chance to miss, like I believe 30% or maybe even a 50% dodge chance, which is just insane for a weapon. It does the same damage from the front row and back row, which is why I moved Terra into the back, because there's no reason for her to be up front, since she has a weapon that even if she attacks will be up front. But also, on mages like Terra, once you have magic points, if you make an attack with this weapon, it will automatically suck 15 magic points away if you have 15 or more, and it will automatically do a critical hit. So it's a very, very powerful sword. And so since it's the best weapon in the game, I'm starting with it. It's one of my very favorite weapons, and it's something you don't normally see. It's hard to pick up in casual play, and you'll never see it in a speedrun, because it's just not worth the time. So now Locke has joined. He's a treasure hunter and a member of the Returners. And I am naming him after my hero who got me started into speedrunning, Puwexil. Shout out to Puwexil. I have to slightly alter his name because it's 7 characters. Puwexil. Let's look for him on Twitch and on most especially on YouTube, all of his videos he puts up there. Great speedrunner, and he's organizing the RPG Limit Break. I hope to see him in person and possibly meet him, you know, who knows, at RPG Limit Break in May. So he has the same equipment Terra does in general, except for relics. He has a couple of relics that make him more powerful, and because of that, I'll be using him instead of Mog in the upcoming triple battle. And we'll see if I choke or not on actually getting past these guards correctly. So here you have 3 teams full of Moogles and one that has Locke in it that are trying to defeat the guard there, and they have to make their way through the maze and either destroy or avoid all of the guards. Normally they don't want you to avoid all of them, but I can use tricks to do it. It's a little bit difficult, and sometimes I have trouble with it, but sometimes I can do it right. Normally you'd take Mog's party, because Mog, since he's technically a regular character, you can actually remove his equipment in battle, even though you can't do it. They've locked it to do it outside of battle. But I don't need to do that, and also Locke is powerful enough to actually defeat the guy on his own, as you will see. Yeah, I messed up there. I need to go a little bit quicker, actually. Bam. That's a nice crit. Now, even this is one of the things I was talking about stats in this game. He's doing some pretty awesome damage if you compare him to the damage that these other ones are going to be doing, the regular Moogles. It's quite a bit of damage, but it's not as much as you would expect from the best sword in the game. And you'll really see that here because you'll see the comparison with the Moogles. They'll be doing about 60 to 100 damage. Now, the main reason that this damage is so varied is why it's not as much as you would think it would do with the ultimate weapon is because that your stats in this game are not the end-all for how much damage you do. Your level actually is a huge factor in determining how much damage you do, the same as it was in Final Fantasy V. But earlier Final Fantasies, that really wasn't the case. In Final Fantasy IV, for instance, as well as in a lot of others, you gain stats as you level. But that's not the case in Final Fantasy VI. Your stats are set, and you can raise them by equipping espers, and certain espers, when you level up, will increase certain stats, and it tells you which stats those are. But otherwise, your stats are set, and so the only thing that really determines how much you do besides battle power is your level. And of course, having those higher stats helps and all. It's not like it's negligible. As you can see, you know, Locke was doing a lot more damage than the others, but not a huge amount because that level is such an important factor. So I have very high stats here, and that does make a difference, especially in speed. You saw how quickly Locke was moving compared to the Moogles, but it's not nearly as much difference. In Final Fantasy IV, if I was to pull the same kind of trick and have Cecil start with the Ragnarok, the best sword in the game, and have him start with stats as high as I've given these guys, he'd be doing a couple thousand points of damage, and the game would be beyond trivial. But now the other thing that I've given Locke, and I actually forgot to move him into the back, and I need to do that, you can see he's got a nice glowy shell around him. He actually has an item equipped called the Marvel Shoes. This is another item that's really hard to get. Normally you have to use the Colosseum, and you have to trade 4 or 5 items before you can really even get to it. So it's a really awesome artifact relic because it gives you safe, shell, regen, and haste all at once. So that's a good one to have. He also has a hero ring to increase his damage. Now I'm going to pick up my third party member, and I'm going to call Edgar Sid, because Sid in this game is kind of the lousiest Sid ever. He's not really a bad guy. I don't really hate him like some people do, but he's a very minor character, and not worthy of the name of Sid, which is one of the primary Final Fantasy names. Sids are usually masters of machinery, so that's why I decided to name Edgar Sid here. Edgar has a couple of neat items as well, but we won't get to see them for a little while yet. Now I'm really taking advantage of these sprint shoes, and this is the place where probably legitimate runners like Essentia and Puwexil would hate me for what I'm doing, because it's just so slow wandering around this castle without sprint shoes. It's really the last place in the game before you can finally pick up sprint shoes with all the walking that's required, and so it's really painful to be without them. But since I have sprint shoes, this part will go really quickly. So game story-wise, I can get a little bit into that for those that aren't familiar with the Final Fantasy story and can't read this text as fast as I'm mashing it. But Locke of the Returners has helped out, come to help out Terra and taken him to Figaro, which ostensibly is an ally of the Emperor and the Empire. But there's actually secrets involved here that we're going to find out. Terra's still unsure of what she's supposed to be doing. Technically, she's supposed to be a soldier of the Empire, that's what she's heard, but she has no idea what the Empire is or what they're involved in, and these people are going to be telling them how evil it is, and she's just going to be confused since she doesn't have any evidence of her own. Still, because Locke and Edgar are nice guys, they, don't want to try and force her or trick her into just helping them. They want her to be able to make her own decision and see for herself. Now I'm going to give Sabin the name of a Street Fighter character that he greatly resembles, just because I think it's amusing. He's been called Zangief before because of the suplex largely, but I think he looks a lot more like a Guile. So we'll get to see some sonic booms, possibly, if I don't choke on the blitzes. This particular SNES emulator controller that I have for my computer does really well, but it's sometimes a little bit finicky, so some of my slip-ups are me, and sometimes it's just this controller isn't quite doing what I expect it to. Makes it very difficult to do blitzes with Sabin. Nevertheless, we are now introduced to Kefka, the big bad.
Phooey, Emperor gets all stupid orders. Say to you, pinhead, why do you have to live in the middle of nowhere? These recon jobs are the pits. There's sand on my boots.
That laugh is awesome. One of the best sound bites in the history of 90s video gaming.
Idiots! Out of my way.
So Kefka has come with a couple of Imperial soldiers looking for Terra. And Edgar's gonna give him the runaround. Because Edgar's a let, she's like, "Oh, you're looking for a girl? I have so many girls here that I pay attention to. I can't keep track of them all." Of course, Kefka's not buying it. He's probably more than suspects Edgar of being, a traitor to the Empire, and more than that, he probably doesn't care whether he's loyal to the Empire or not, but they're gonna buy a little bit of time by giving him the runaround. And so we have a little bit more conversation between Terra and Locke about what's necessary as a... Jeez, I really messed up there. Normally with sprint shoes I can slip past Locke and get ahead of him and go down the stairs, but didn't quite get it going correctly. Anyway. Now we're continuing on Puwexil, the treasure hunter. He's very sensitive about being called a thief, even though he has the steal command and has to use it at some points in the game. He's going to discuss this with Terra a little bit more. Poor Terra is confused, but pretty soon she'll see just how bad the Empire is for herself. Although right now, bothered. So... now we're finally really going to get Edgar. We're going to be controlling him again. And he can use swords and spears, but because the Illumina is the best weapon in the game and it's a sword, I've given it to him as well. Now technically when you do tricks like this, you can equip any kind of item on anybody, and that's an important thing to remember, because there are a few that I've specially crafted, but otherwise characters lose equipment so much that at certain points in the game they automatically unequip a bunch of your characters, so what you equip on them, you can't re-equip it once it's been taken off. So I have to keep that in mind when I'm carefully planning out all of this equipment. This is called mapping a run, and it's one of the really interesting things about this particular run that I'm doing, because it has regular runs, including glitched runs and glitchless runs of Final Fantasy VI, have been mapped extensively already with all sorts of tricks and plans made about how best to gain experience, where best to gain experience, where best to get money, which is very important in this game. And I'm using a lot of these tricks as well. You know, I've been studying these speedruns and picked out some of the best techniques of where to go and how to move and how to avoid fights, like I mostly did in the Narshe mine. But there are a lot of things that are different in mine because I don't need as much equipment and really I don't need as much levels, but there are other things that I need in order to make this game go the most smoothly, to take the most advantage of what I've got. So I'm still mapping it out myself, but I've done quite a bit of playing and I've got a pretty good map for it. Now this battle normally can be kind of difficult, but with the higher stats that Sid has, pop, normally you can't one-shot them, but because of a relic he has equipped and also his higher stats, he does about twice as much damage as he'd normally do, which is enough to one-shot them. Now, normally if you're playing this game casually, you'll have Terra help out by casting fire, and this starts a very lengthy cutscene, which is cool to watch, but when you're speedrunning the game and trying to finish as fast as possible, you know, a minute-and-a-half long cutscene that you could avoid, you know, if you can skip it, you do. You just don't want to waste that minute and a half watching that nonsense, you know, when you're going through in a speedrun. So, every other speedrunner does that too. They fight that battle without having Terra use fire, which makes it slightly more difficult perhaps, but Edgar's auto crossbow is really useful for finishing that fight fairly easily, even when you don't have my absurd stats and everything here. So, now we're going to move on, and I'm going to switch a few things around, because I had Edgar start with a experience egg as well. But before I can do that, I need to head to the next area on my Chocobo. Free Chocobo rides are great, because you can't get enemy encounters when you're on Chocobos. I'm going to equip the Marvel Shoes on him because he's most important for us killing everything quickly with his... so the Marvel Shoes, of course, grant haste as well, which makes his turn come up quicker. So he can use auto crossbow more times to kill the enemies, because it's the most reliable way to kill enemies at this point. And because it's 3 characters, even with your speed as a preemptive attack, I'm going to go ahead and run away. You can run away instantly with a preemptive attack. Otherwise, there's a bit of randomness involved in how much running gauge, which is invisible, you need to run away. But it still takes quite a bit of time normally, and especially with 3 characters, since every character has to run away individually. So since I want to gain a little bit of experience right now for future times, I'm going to go ahead and, since I can one-shot things with the auto crossbow, I'll be doing a little bit of that, but if I get preemptives, I'll run away. Unless there are 5 enemies, because they give more experience in a group of 5. I haven't done any kind of... the skilled speedrunners now can do some manipulation to determine what random encounters they will actually get for like the first hour and a half of the game. So that's a really useful thing. But I haven't bothered to do any of that. You know, as I say, since I'm not really striving to shave seconds for a personal best or even possible world record, you know, I'm just fighting these battles. I'm just taking what the game gives me and going with it. So, but when it comes to fighting battles in RPG speedruns, generally when you're mapping them out and making these plans, it's very important to think of 2 things, which are reward versus effort, and risk as well, but especially in my case, effort. If it's really easy to win the battle and it gives a decent reward, you should fight the battle. Or if it isn't worth running away. So, since it's 3 characters, they're semi-difficult to run away right now, and I can easily one-shot most of them with the auto crossbow. I'm just attacking them, but brawlers generally aren't worth much. I'll encounter a lot of other guys, they'll be better. And I do have enough speed to run away fairly easily. There I am messing up again. Normally you'd run and get an Atlas armlet there, but I don't need a relic like that, especially since I have a hero ring which does the same thing, only better. Now that I've gone through Mount Colts, I can use magic safely without triggering the cutscene. Tuskers are worth some of the most experience. I probably should have just run away, but two of them are worth a bunch. Now, I totally skipped South Figaro, which normally you'd go to because you really need to pick up sprint shoes. But since I already have sprint shoes, I can save that time off my list. There's really nothing else important to do in South Figaro. So. It's one of the other reasons it's handy to have. Normally, you wouldn't want Locke getting experience, but with the route that I've mapped out for this glitched run, Locke is actually really important because he's the guy who you really can keep throughout most of the entire game from the start to the middle of it, so it's worth it for me to go ahead and get him experience. And Terra as well is going to be extremely valuable, so those two getting experience is fine, plus they're lower level than Sid right now anyway. Level 10. As you see, as I was talking about, mapping out is a unique thing, and right now I'm still trying to figure out mostly what the best routes are for what items are most useful to me, what treasure chests to pick up, and what I can just skip. So far, pretty much everything in Mount Colts is not worth the time and investment to get because of what I already have, because there's very little that I'll need to pick up that I'll actually be using, since I give myself a little equipment, except for a few consumables. So mostly it's what I sell so I can buy the consumables that I'll need, either to run away or win certain battles easily later on in the game. But right now Mount Colts is a place where you just run and kill a few things because that's a little bit easier. Now we all seem to be level 11, so that will best fight here overall for experience. So now we're coming up on Vargas, who is a... now, Edgar and his twin brother Sabin were the princes of Figaro, but when their father died, rumored to be poisoned by the Empire, Sabin got angry and wanted revenge on them, and he didn't want to be involved in the political life, so he ran away, leaving Edgar to rule the kingdom. And he's been training with this martial artist named Duncan. But Duncan has a son named Vargas, who is training with Sabin, and he apparently got very jealous of Sabin, and he believed that Duncan favored Sabin more than he favored, him, Vargas, his own son. So he wants revenge on him, and he's a nasty dude. So this is the battle we'll be in here. And it's a kind of interesting fight. He has a couple of interesting bear companions called I Poo. As Puwexil says, they're probably Apple's answer to the teddy bear. Oh, this is the other thing that the Illumina does that I forgot to mention, is it has a chance when you attack of randomly proccing the powerful Pearl spell, which kind of is one of the things that does the very most damage at this point in the game. If I get procs on that, pretty much anything that gets hit with it in the first hour or so of the game dies. So that's another reason the Illumina is very, very powerful. Now the second phase of this fight starts. Even though I hit him with Pearl, it's actually almost impossible to kill Vargas normally. This is a scripted battle where, after doing so much damage, Guile comes in here, and the only way that Guile or Sabin can win the fight is by using his most basic blitz technique. So you have to use it correctly. Hey, voila, first try. No Ronnie choke on that one. No Kane choke. Even though it's his most basic technique, Vargas is amazed that Sabin has already learned that technique, and it finishes him off somehow. Okay, so now I have a fourth party member. It's really difficult to run away. So I don't... this is the point of the game where it is the most difficult to run away, so I'm going to be fighting all the rest of these inconsequential battles just because it's quicker than trying to make my companions run, unless I get a preemptive, which, if I'm lucky, I'll get a bunch of those. For the most part, Sabin doesn't have anything particularly noteworthy on him, just things that are semi-useful going forward. I've actually equipped him with sprint shoes so that I don't have to worry about changing out equipment when he moves on to his storyline, which I'll be doing first, for all the same reasons that you do it first in any other speedrun, because he gets a bunch of stuff, including smoke bombs, that are useful for all the other runs. I'm going to go ahead and break up this tent just as a little bit of money because it's close at hand. Probably could skip it, but it's very, very close and it's useful for selling. All my characters actually have the same very, very, very high stats. Normally, you know, they have a little bit of differences that can make a lot of difference. Like Locke is one of the faster characters, so he runs away real well, but all my characters do run away pretty well just based on the random thing because of the speed they've got. I'm going to safety save here because this is one of the infamous points where the game can soft lock, which is not good. There's a random NPC that can sometimes be in the way here. I've never had this soft lock happen to me, but you hear about it, and the last thing you want is your run to end because he happens to be there. You'll just walk, and this guy will be in the way, and so the script doesn't know what to do with you. So this is Duncan, an annoying old man. He's the leader of the returners. He would actually be very strong in a casual playthrough if you were able to keep him. He has a really, really powerful ability called Help, which heals the party for a lot and doesn't cost any mana or anything, so he can use it constantly. There's even a trick coming up ahead where, because Duncan's in the party, or what am I doing calling him? Because Bannon is in the party, this old man Bannon, you can infinitely level up while doing nothing, so you can actually, if you leave the controller and turbo controller running with its button held down for about 3 days, you'll get up to level 80, and that's another way in which you can cheese this game out. Just about all the items here are worth picking up, so I'm going to go ahead and grab them. So Terra's still very confused about what's going on, and so everyone's just giving her time to think about what she wants and giving her just the advice that they can. With, as Edgar says, you know, they don't want to push her too hard or else they're no better than the Empire. After you talk to them, you have to talk to Bannon. I'm also going to pick up all the items in here, or most of the items, at least the ones from the chest, because they're relatively useful and easy to grab. They're worth some money. Things will really start to get interesting once I get through here because of some of the tricks I've really prepped up. Need that Phoenix down to use a battle up ahead. True Knight is very valuable in a normal speedrun, but I probably am not going to need it, so it's probably just going to be for selling. Same with the White Cape, again, very, very useful normally. It makes you immune to some nasty status effects like Imp, while also giving you more magic evade, which is the only thing that matters in this game. Coming up ahead, you'll see people hit with the Dark status, but if you don't know anything about this game, the Dark status, because physical evasion is bugged, it doesn't work at all. Magic evasion affects both physical attacks and magic attacks, and basically Dark gives the enemy really high evasion against your attack, so in other words, it's useless. It just makes your character have some really funky sunglasses that some people think are really cool. Now Bannon wants to know if we're really willing to help him, and we tell him no. We tell him no 3 times because we don't like him. Actually, the reason we tell him no is because it skips a very lengthy cutscene. It also gives us the Genji Glove, which is one of the few items that we'll pick up that I'll be using. You'd use it a lot in normal speedrun. It's also very useful in casual play, but for a couple of reasons, I don't really find much use for it until the very end of the game. But still, it's a rare item to get, so it's good for me to pick up now anyway. If you say yes to Bannon the first time, you get the Gauntlet, which is really crappy. Just makes you use a weapon in 2 hands, gives you the two-handed ability, as they call it in some of the other games, and it increases the damage you do a little bit, but not as much as you do by dual wielding with the Genji Glove. Plus, you know, the Genji Glove allows you to equip 2 weapons with double stats, as well as attacking twice. You can also get the Genji Glove by saying no once, and then going up and talking to the returner soldier in the storeroom up top where I picked up all those items. But this way skips the cutscene, which saves quite a bit of time. So now Locke is heading off to go slow down the Empire in Figaro, and the rest of us are trying to escape on this raft. Now this is one of the places where in a normal speedrun, in order to really make up a lot of time, you try to do some resetting of the game constantly to manipulate the random generation seed and which battles you get, but for me it's not really a big deal. I'm not too concerned with it, and I'll just pick up the experience here. And really I should probably give him the experience sake go back to Sid right here so he can get some more experience. Oh, blast. That was a major mess up. You're supposed to go left. I clicked down too many times, though. Joke. Normally you'd move Bannon to the back. This actually is a semi-scary place, but I do enough damage so I don't have to worry about it too much. But if Bannon dies, and he's very weak, and I did not give Bannon any special bonuses, so he actually could be attacked and killed, and then the game's over. So that's semi-scary, so normally you'd move him to the back for protection, but I'm not really going to waste time doing it. Because for the most part I can just kill enemies easily without having to worry about Bannon getting hurt. And, you know, it's the one little bit of, this game, I've made it so easy that having this one little instance I don't think is a big deal. Yeah, I'm good that instead. Sabin also has a pair of marble shoes, so actually he has 2 pairs of shoes on. He has 4 feet or 1 of each. I'm not sure quite how it works out. That's the very important one, because that's actually the loop. If you keep pressing up, which is the default command, you will simply keep going around in a circle. And this is the point where if you have a turbo controller, you can use a rubber band or something to hold the button down and leave the controller alone and gain a lot of levels. You can do it even gain a lot of levels really quickly on an emulator by turning on the super speed. I'm not turning on the super speed at any point in this game. Even though this is an emulator thing, and it'll make it go faster, because I'm, you know, trying to keep more or less in the spirit of speedrunning and not use the super cheese things. I've already got all this equipment, I can't say that much about it really, but oh well, I just, you never see those kinds of things when you do the run, so even though it would save a lot of time by skipping a lot of cutscenes, it's not something I want to avoid. Normally Ultros can be a semi-intimidating battle unless you carefully manipulate it, but with the damage I do, I'm not too terribly worried. Voila, he has about 3,000 hit points, 2,500-ish, so with my basic attacking, that's enough damage to get rid of him. If you cast fire on him, he responds with ink, which is pretty much pointless, of course. But he's weak to fire. Normally, Sabin can do a lot of damage with his blitzes and stuff here as well. You would equip the Genji Glove on Edgar and have him equip the Mithril Pike you stole from Mog earlier, plus the Regal Cutlass that he starts with. With those 2 weapons, he does a fair amount of damage himself. That's how you'd win this fight normally. So now Guile gets washed away and he gets lost, and so Guile/Sabin has to do his own thing. Use Mog to select the party you want at this point to see where you're going to go, and I am going to go ahead and start with Sabin's scenario because that's the way we do things. And the real reason why, I mentioned it briefly earlier, but you won't understand why until much later. So we'll go ahead and take Sabin over to here. And first thing we're going to do is pick up a companion. The strangely shadowed man is a ninja, normally known as Shadow. I am going to name him Junpei, after the ninja in MegaTokyo, in fact, is actually the reason I'm giving him this name. Shoutouts to MegaTokyo. And there's a very specific reason I'm picking up Shadow. Sometimes some routes will actually skip him because it takes a bit of time to collect him here. But other routes will get him because it makes the battle in the Imperial camp go a lot more smoothly. But I'm picking him up for an entirely different reason. And actually, it's because monsters are afraid of him. You saw we got no random encounters there that entire time, and as long as I have Shadow in my party here, I won't have any random encounters, only forced battles. Okay, for legitimacy's sake, again, you may remember that I said earlier that you can use these kinds of codes, and also you can use glitches in the game, like the sketch glitch, to equip certain items that you normally couldn't equip, and even in slots that you couldn't normally equip them. Like I could put Illuminas on the entire body and raise the attack power even more, as well as super magic evade and big stats and stuff, and it'd be really crazy. But once people get unequipped, that will stop being, you can't make it happen again unless you're using a glitch like the sketch glitch. So what I've done here is I've actually given Shadow the Moogle Charm, which can normally only be equipped by Mog and can't be picked up until the World of Ruin, when basically at the same point you get Mog, it's an item in the wall, hidden in the wall right behind him. But Shadow actually will go a long ways into the World of Balance before he gets automatically unequipped, so as long as I have Shadow in my party for the first good portion of the game, I won't be able to get into any random encounters. Now, if I really wanted to cheese the run, I could give pretty much every character the Moogle Charm and avoid all battles, but there are a lot of battles I do want to fight. Now, as I've mentioned in one of my previous videos, Cyan's name technically possibly was supposed to be Cayenne, like so. So that's what I'm renaming him here. And he has some really excellent items on him that make this part of the game where he's alone rather good. He also starts with a pair of sprint shoes, so I don't have to worry about re-equipping them or switching them around or whatever. And he also has another item that makes this battle irrelevant. 3, 4. As a Master Swordsman, he attacks 4 times, thanks to the Offering Relic. And we got the Black Belt, which doesn't matter too much, but it's a little bit of money, so it's pretty nice. It's actually the common drop, and it's the one you want more. The rare drop you get from that commander is a Phoenix Down, so it's one of the most famous drop situations you'll see in a speedrun. But, so it's kind of funny when you get the Phoenix Down, which I have before, but most of the time you get the Black Belt, which is generally better. It's a fairly cool relic since it makes you randomly counterattack when you get hit, but more importantly it sells for a lot of money, and since, unlike Final Fantasy IV or Final Fantasy V, there are no glitches that can easily get you a lot of money. Even in glitched runs, money is at a premium in this game, so every little bit of money helps that you can get easily without having to grind it, for instance. Because you can get a lot of money by grinding, but not for a long time is it really worth any amount of grinding at all. So now we're in the Imperial camp. They've surrounded the castle of Doma, which has its Master Swordsman, Cyan, or Cayenne, defending it. And General Leo is the nice guy general of the Empire who's trying to attack it now. He cares for his soldiers and for the enemy as well, but he's just been called away, which leaves our good buddy Kefka in charge. And Kefka's got a wonderful plan to poison the river. Now we'll see coming up if I get to kill Kefka legitimately. Because you'll see in the upcoming battle, it's kind of interesting, he counts as a member of your party, technically. Nope, I didn't get it. Not this time. I have one more chance to get it, I believe. It actually saves time if I get this. Not only is it kind of cool because I don't get the dialogue.
Wait, he says. Do I look like a waiter?
But, as I say, I've equipped the best weapons on everybody, and there we go. Stop. Junpei has the stunner. That's his best dagger, which you can get in the Cult of Kefka Tower. And it randomly casts Stop on the enemy when he hits them. And if Kefka is stopped, his ability won't trigger. So since he's stopped, he has about 300 hit points, so I can finish him off with a second hit. And then I don't get the dialogue, so that saves a little bit of time. It's a minor thing, but it is kind of interesting when stuff like that can happen. It's one of the fun things about having some of these ultimate weapons, because you get to see them in action. Normally, weapons hardly matter in a speedrun, because you have to, the few battles you fight, you have to fight them as efficiently as possible, and so you manipulate things so that you never even use the fight command after like a small portion of the game. But fight is still useful for me. I get to try out all these ultimate weapons. Unfortunately, Sabin doesn't have any particularly, awesome weapons. He's got his ultimate weapon, which is the Tiger Fang, but it doesn't do anything really special. And Cayenne here has the Sky Render, which again is a really, really powerful sword. Maybe I should have just given him the Scimitar, which is another really awesome sword he can equip, because it has a special ability to sometimes cause instant death, which is kind of neat. But right now I just got him on the Sky Render, because that's technically his most powerful weapon. Only some of the characters do they not have the absolute best attack weapon, and it's mostly for flavor of that particular character. Now, Kefka spread the poison around, though, and so everybody's dying thanks to the purple Kool-Aid. Or possibly because they're in shock of the Demon Chocobo. Which, by the way, if you've watched some of the speedruns at marathons, like SGDQ 2014 or RPG Limit Break 2015 last year, they had a run, and they will do this again at the RPG Limit Breaks Final Fantasy VI run, and this year coming up. They have a running donation incentive to vote for or against the Demon Chocobo background, which Essentia discovered accidentally and is horrified by. And it's really terrible. But if you haven't seen it, you ought to check those out and see the thing. It's really horrible, and I'm never going to do this unless somebody pays me to do it. In other words, if I'm actually running this at a marathon, which certainly isn't going to happen, but if people are donating for it, I'd do the donation incentive because it's what you do. But otherwise, no, you're never going to see the Demon Chocobo from me. For me, it's all about good taste. If I was to change the background, I'd make it a nice red. Red's my favorite color, so that's what I like to go for. Simple or complicated sometimes. The backgrounds in this game, though, by the way, are really interesting. If you're playing it casually, you ought to check out some of them. You can do some interesting colors and things. There's one that looks rather like a foresty, which you can even make look cooler by making a different color like red or blue. So Cayenne is computer controlled in this round, and he'll usually kill everything all on his own. Very quick. Everything from the Imperial camp only gives gold, it doesn't give any experience. Oh, where am I running? Control's failing again. There are 3 total of these battles, and then everything is over. Because fight, of course, isn't useful, the offering is one of those really cool items that you'll never see. Although it's famous. Darn, don't want him to do dispatch, actually. Well, but the offering is cool because it makes you attack 4 times, and normally you would only see it on Leo or on a casual play if you decided to get it from the Ancient Castle and use it. For some reason, I just always like putting it on Cyan. I think that Cyan is made for the offering. His sword techs are pretty useful abilities overall, but they take so much time to charge. The offering just lets him use his high attack power as it was meant to and just do a lot of damage to the enemy. So now we get to pick up Magitech armor, though, and unlike before when Terra had Magitech armor, we'll be able to make use of our sprint shoes and go super quickly with them. Unfortunately, unlike Terra, we don't get Imperial Officer Magitech armor, I guess is what they officially call it. So we just have to stick to using regular weapon beams instead of bio or tech missile or other cool things. But this is where Magitech armor uses, I believe, the magic stat, which is most affected by level. Basically, level is more determined rather than battle power. Magic is determined in its power by the level of the spell, and Magitech armor is pretty high level spells, so that's the reason I'm doing over 1,000 with this, and 1,000 with the Tech Missile, and 2,000 with the Pearl triggers, because they have very high factors in multiplying them. It's kind of very complicated how it works. I don't know how all the stats work together, but by working it this way, I've seen a few things that make more of a difference than others in determining how much damage you do. Regardless, all the damage I do through most stations of the game are more than enough to wipe most of the enemies easily. Things will be a little bit more interesting towards the end of the game. Some of the other things I've given all the characters is the Paladin Shield. I should mention that. It's the most powerful shield in the game, and it's very hard to get again. Normally you can pick it up in Narshe in the World of Ruin once you have Locke in your party, but you only get the Cursed Shield, and then to get the Paladin Shield, you have to fight 256 battles with this really horrible shield that gives all these status ailments to your character. So it's very difficult to get, but it's very good for a lot of reasons. It's actually the reason why you've seen our characters absorb a few elemental attacks, because it makes you immune to or absorb elemental attacks, nearly all of them, and also gives you very good evasion and has another special property that won't come into play until much later in the game. So I'm not going to say anything more about that. If you're actually a hardcore speedrunner, or rather a hardcore player of this game in the casual sense, because it's not anything you'll ever see speedrunning. It's one of the reasons I'm doing it this way. But you might know what it's about, and if so, you know what's coming. But if you haven't, I'm not going to spoil the surprise. The Paladin Shield is probably the most awesome item in the game. So, again, because I gave Shadow the Moogle Charm, I was able to make my way through all of that without getting any encounters, and I'll continue to go through the Phantom Train without any encounters, and this is a really big thing. It's some of what I did for routing this game and mapping out the routes for it, as figuring out where the best places to... I don't know why I'm hitting A there, I shouldn't be. Trying to avoid things. Oops. Didn't go quite far enough. No escape, but you can run away. That's actually the only battle I'll get on the Phantom Train, because it's a scripted battle, and I'm not going to talk to any of the other scripted battle ghosts. And again, because I have the Moogle Charm, I don't have any encounters. But I've mapped out the game on which places give me the most encounters versus, the encounters that I actually want to have, so... Again, I could give Moogle Charms to every character so that I just constantly go through the game without encounters, but there's a certain amount of strategy I planned out of what I want to do with the game. And so giving it to Shadow is fairly useful, because he can be around for some of the points where it's most annoying to have random battles. A place basically where I want them the very least. And I'll be showing off some of those in a bit here. Some of the another place where Shadow will be useful, because this is about the end of Shadow's contribution to this party. Story-wise, we're fleeing. Cyan's the only survivor of Doma, and we've recovered him and are fleeing from the Empire, trying to make our way back to Narshe so that Sabin can meet up with his friends again. But blocking our way is the Phantom Forest and the Phantom Train, which Sabin gets on because he doesn't think much of it. But now we figured out that it's the Phantom Train, and it's going to take us to the other side. We don't want to go there yet, so we're trying to figure out a way to stop the train. Luckily, it's a lot easier to stop the train when you don't have to worry about encounters. So we're just about done with this. This saves a lot of time not having encounters in this place. Hence the main reason I decided that it'd be interesting to give Shadow the Moogle Charm so I could skip all these, because I don't really need experience or anything else for these two characters in particular, Cyan and Sabin. They're not extremely vital to my run, to the route I've got, so... Now, the first thing that you have to do in order to make this a legitimate Final Fantasy VI run is suplex the train. There are a lot of enemies that are immune to suplex, but for some reason, the Phantom Train is not one of them. So... you can suplex him, and it's just really cool. But because he's an undead enemy, he instantly dies to Phoenix down. Yay! It's really fun when they do that. It seems to be a It's really hard to say if it's a mess up in the programming or not, because it constantly happens in every Final Fantasy. They change it up sometimes, just what it does. But this particular game, there are a couple bosses that can be instantly killed with Phoenix down, and that's one of them. Now we're going to have a long cutscene coming up where you have to even sit around for a little while. And so I'll be playing with my inventory during that time. Ventre agrees to let us go, but Cyan's going to see his wife and child getting on the train and is going to be devastated. Bible thump. Poor Cyan. He's definitely one of the... You know, they just like in anime, all these characters, they have tragedies and stuff in their life, but Cyan's definitely got it worse than a lot of people in this game. So we're almost done with Shadow, and we're coming up on the Veldt, where things are going to get rather interesting. Because technically, probably the most dangerous boss in the game is hiding out on the Veldt. I wonder how long I've been playing. Cyan, is that your wife and child departing? Oh, poor Cyan. Just sends Kyle's crawling. Shadow goes to get him. So this is the last I'll have Shadow. It's just a short walk up to the falls. And then it's just going to be these two. Again, the amount of experience you get from all the battles throughout this entire route, because you don't get any experience on the Veldt, is one of the main reasons why I want to avoid as many fights as possible. But one of the reasons I didn't give it to, say, Cyan instead, give him a Moogle Charm or something, is because you need to fight battles on the Veldt. And so you can't really make use of anything there. That'll be enough, yep. So again, I had to carefully map out all of that, and this just is one of the most useful things. So the only way to go forward is to fall down these falls to the Veldt, and rather than being dangerous and possibly costing your life, the falls is actually a very therapeutic, jumping off of this cliff into the falls is a very therapeutic thing. It fully restores your party's HP and MP. You know, it acts like a rest, basically. It's one of those moments like a recovery spring where it just fills you up. And the reason is, since Shadow just left, you might have a party of 2 dead people instead if you go here. And there are a couple places where the game didn't program that well, but there are a few places where it did, and this is one of them. So now, unfortunately, you have to fight for a certain amount of time on the waterfall, no matter how many of these things you kill. Now, despite, contrary to popular belief, there is some value in killing multiple of these things, because they have a small chance each of dropping a tonic. So if you kill a whole lot of them, you could get a bunch of tonics. But that's pretty useless, so it's not really worth killing them for, so I'm just going to be doing a bunch of waiting. I've been trying a couple of times, and I've been listening to advice from Puwexil and others, but I still haven't got down the actual amount of time needed for this wait, and I don't know if it's affected when you have, if you're in the menu or not, so I kind of just am usually guessing. Well, this sounds about right. Nope, I did early again, but it should be too early. Otherwise, I'm not too concerned. There we go. Ah, there's a choke. His Orbital does a lot of damage, and it might, with the increased magic damage and stuff I do, it might actually be enough to one-shot him. Because a lot of Guile's abilities are count as magical attacks for some reason, including Bum Rush, of all things. It's a non-elemental attack that ignores defense, so it's a very powerful ability in your normal glitchless runs. I'm not going to be bothering with Bum Rush, of course, because of other factors that are easier to use and more powerful, but still, it's a thing to make note of if you're playing the game non-hacked, like if you're doing a regular glitchless speedrun, or if you're playing casually, it's a very good ability to get your hands on. So now we meet Gao. Gao I'm also going to give a name to shout out to another one of the non-speedrun things out there I really like. Gao's name is Grog, because I would like to rage. Shoutouts to Critical Role, #critters. Critical Role is a great show on YouTube where a bunch of nerdy voice actors play Dungeons and Dragons. So if you're into that kind of stuff, and if you like anime and you like Full Metal Alchemist and stuff, the voice actors from those shows are, oh dear, this is the worst. They're the ones playing D&D in Critical Role. So on the Veldt, you can encounter almost any battle that you've done previously, including a bunch of boss battles. Not all of them, but there are a few so-called boss battles you can get. And the same factors that you'll find there, good. I didn't encounter the main boss. The main, all the features in the battle that were there before, such as not being able to run, all the flags that those monsters have, they have here as well. So you can't run from the soldier and the Templar. And it's I really don't want to fight the battles on the Veldt because they're only worth experience. They are only worth money. They aren't worth any experience. So they aren't worth very much to me, and there's a chance that if I kill them right now, I'll encounter Gao. And I do not want to encounter Gao until I have picked up the dried meat from Mobliz here. Gao is a wild man living on the Veldt, and he's hungry, and so if you feed him dried meat, then all your problems are solved and he becomes your friend. So let's get him some dried meat. And now I want to kill things and find Gao. I don't want pincer attacks or side attacks because those he will not appear in. Or attacks from behind, only normal ones. So hopefully I'll get him as soon as possible and then I have a very long cutscene. But the reason I don't want to encounter him before I get dried meat, darn, one down, is because it's not a worry now, but if Gao appears and you don't have meat, you have to do damage to him to send him scurrying off. Note, it is not hit him, you have to do damage for him. And like all the other characters, I have equipped Gao in the most powerful armor in the game. And Gao actually can use the Snow Muffler, which is another super duper rare item to get from the Colosseum. And it is actually stronger armor even than the Genji armor. And because of that, with his Ultima Shield and his Genji armor, he is really hard to do damage to. Even with the super high attack power my characters here have, I have a good chance of doing 0 damage to him. Maybe I'll go ahead and show that off. And he's not going to run away because I didn't do damage to him. Luckily I have the dried meat, so I can just end this battle. So I have to charge up a powerful sword tech, or I have to actually get off a powerful blitz in order to even do damage to Gao, so that I can chase him off, because you can't run away from him. So the only way to end the battle is to do damage to him and make him run away. And again, if he appears, then the little bit of experience or other reward you would have gotten from the battle doesn't happen. So now we have this long cutscene as Gao gets to know the party. But so that's it's kind of interesting, and Gao is an almost useless party member to me. He's usually almost useless. There are just certain things about him that make him not good and useful to use, even though his rages are pretty cool in casual play. But so I could actually make this easier by just not giving him any equipment or not giving him any special equipment. I do lots of damage or whatever. So I'm kind of hurting myself by giving him this equipment and having him be a difficult person to deal with. But I just decided I was going to give everybody the best equipment, so I did. I really don't care. It's one of those fun things, and it's kind of self-punishment for the fact that I'm doing this at all. I think it's rather interesting that Gao almost looks like he could be Guile's little brother. They have the same hairstyle. That's spiky head of hair with a little ponytail attached to it. So Gao has a shiny, which if you're actually talking to people in the game and learning about things, then you'll know that he had the underwater... that there was an underwater breathing apparatus you could use to ride the Serpent Trench to Nikea, this underwater current. But it got stolen, and Gao's the person who happened to steal it, just luckily for you. So now Kappa gives us an introduction to Gao's abilities. Kappa is actually what the imps were called in the original Japanese. Kappa is a kind of water demon, a water sprite, sort of like a gremlin or something. It's known to eat children, and it also really loves cucumbers. You can keep your children safe by keeping the cucumbers around because they like them more than children. And they have, various times or kind of heroes or whatever, but so that's what they're really called, and that's why his name is Kappa. We don't know why they didn't change it to imp or whatever, but yeah. And so now, no more battles with Gao. Gao is an interesting character because he has no fight command. Instead, he has his rages, which when he rages, he goes berserk, and he will every turn, he will either fight or use the special ability that he has developed from that rage ability, which is usually based on something they use, and it could be a spell, including powerful ones, like Meteor and Pearl. Or he'll do the fight, and so... if you use him in the right circumstances, he can actually be really powerful, but for the most part, because he's random and he can't just fight things normally, he can learn magic, so you can make him a powerful spellcaster, but it's still, just generally easier to use other characters who are more normal. It also, if you want to try and get a true 100% completion to get all of Gao's rages, for instance, you are going to be playing this game for a very long time, because not only do you have to get them all on the belt, but you have to make sure to fight them and be in instances where those fights will appear. It's rather insane the way the thing works for this. So no, we're not going anywhere near trying to get Gao any rages. So coming up in the Serpent Trench, there's a couple of tricks that I'm doing the same as any speedrun to try and save time, and one of them is by going through the cave. There are a couple of neat items to pick up in these caves if you're on a casual playthrough, but I really don't need any of them either. They're all skipped even in normal speedruns, and I certainly don't need them either because I have much better stuff. We can run away from these. None of these things are worth a whole lot of experience, especially now that I have 5 party members, including some with some very lengthy attack animations, so I'm going to be running from any of the fights except for the ones with the anguiforms because they're very hard to run away from, and it's still just quicker for me to kill them off. So here I go right in order to skip a battle and go through this cave. I shouldn't have done that. Hooray for Paladin Shield. Normally that'd be kind of dangerous, but... And normally I'd do that right by just having Cyan attack with his offering to kill all the enemies at once. But I messed up there and had Gao attack instead, which made that battle go a little bit longer than it should have. Maybe still would have been quicker to run away. Blast it. These guys only use Aqua Rake if they're alone. But the Paladin Shield makes me immune to Aqua Rake, so this normally dangerous enemy. Splat. I really messed up there. I would have been faster for me to run away than to fight in the manner that I did. Normally I can kill those guys quickly by having Cyan just attack them, but these guys I can run away from easily enough. Faster than it would be to kill 5 of them. Now there's a lot that I could do in order to make the run less face roll Kappa while still having everything I really want. I could take paladin shields off of a lot of these characters, for instance. Possibly make Cyan more entertaining by starting him with a Genji glove of his own and a second powerful weapon like Scimitar, but I just kind of have this set up right now. It'd be kind of interesting if other people were to also script out this game and script out some of the things that are done in order to take what I already have here and make it even more optimized, as it were. Probably never going to happen, but it's kind of interesting, the fact that nobody else has done this before. So I just picked up some smoke bombs, which are one of the most important items early game, because they will actually allow me to run away really quickly. And that's what the main reason why you start this, do this scenario first, so that you can pick up those smoke bombs and therefore run away with all your other encounters. Now I don't have to worry too much about encounters with Bannon and his team, because even though Bannon is super slow, I can just run away with smoke bombs. I'm going to go ahead and save here and put it up. Normally I'd like to do this in a continuous run, non-segmented, unsegmented as they call it, just a continuous run, rather than the segmented form that I'm going to be doing it in, but it's really hard for me to talk for 8 hours straight in order to do this game, or rather probably closer to 7 hours the way I have it, and breaking it up like this also makes it easier to watch. Even so, over an hour of gameplay is probably a bit much for most people, but this is the start of it, kind of experiment, and I hope you enjoyed this, and look forward to the next parts that are coming. And see you later.